The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Washington to meet with the American President Donald Trump. And just moments ago, Donald Trump received Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House. As part of the bilateral meeting, the two leaders are expected to discuss terms of the mineral deal. The meeting is a pivotal moment for the future of both Zelensky and Ukraine. Now, the Ukrainian president is, of course, seeking American security guarantees in return for access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Now, Donald Trump has insisted that the deal with Kiev is necessary for Washington to recoup the billions of dollars that it has given Ukraine in terms of military and other aid. NATO's doors are virtually shut for Kiev. Volodymyr Zelensky has been glossed over as having little say in any peace talks on Russia's aggression on his country. This meeting could pretty much be Zelensky's last chance to mollify Donald Trump for continued support. The Ukrainian leader's visit was almost cancelled after Donald Trump reportedly had declined to meet with Zelensky, but reports say that France's President Emmanuel Macron had softened the ground for the Ukrainian president during his visit to the US earlier in the week. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has already spoken to his American counterpart over the phone. The two leaders reportedly spoke for 90 long minutes just 2 weeks ago. And now Zelensky is meeting Donald Trump to determine as to what could be in store for his war-ravaged country in terms of American support. The Ukraine's president will address a joint press conference with Donald Trump in about 2 hours from now. And to give us more updates on this, we have our correspondent Susan Tehrani, who is joining us live on this broadcast from New York. Susan, this is a big moment from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Give us a sense as to what is likely to unfold in the meeting between Zelensky and Trump.
So, according to Trump administration officials, prior to Zelensky's arrival and meeting with Donald Trump just a few minutes ago, there is a mineral deal on the table, just ready to be signed. And what this mineral deal does, it's somewhat a joint venture between Ukraine and the United States. 50% of the profits of those rare minerals would go to the United States, and then the other 50% would go to Ukraine for reconstruction efforts, post-war reconstruction efforts. Now, is this signing going to take place? Trump administration officials say that it's very likely during this visit by Zelensky. But still, that big question of security guarantees is still hanging over the meeting of these two leaders. Zelensky and Trump seemed to be in good spirit when they shook hands outside of the White House. We're expected to see that press conference, and I think that's when we'll get a better picture of how this meeting went.
Indeed, that's going to be a press conference to watch out for. Thank you very much, Susan Tehrani, for joining us from New York and getting us all those details. And also joining us live on the broadcast is retired Colonel David Desroches, who is a professor at the Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies at the National Defense University and a former Deputy Director for Peacekeeping in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. He's joining us live on this broadcast. Now, Colonel Desroches, this is a big meeting for the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, considering as to how things have gone on between Ukraine and the United States since Trump has taken charge, the mineral deal for the United States to get access to the Ukrainian rare earth minerals looks like a done deal. But the Ukrainian president is hoping for American security guarantees. Do you think Donald Trump will offer him that?
I don't think so, but I think that he has enough goodwill that he'll have what is the practical version of American security guarantees. I mean, the fact of the matter is U.S. withdrawal from Ukraine would put Europe into a tizzy and would basically destabilize NATO. So I think regardless of what's on paper, regardless of what's signed, U.S. support for Ukraine is pretty much going to have to continue for a while. It may be at a higher or a lower level.
Interesting, but within Ukraine, a lot of people are talking that there is a sense of betrayal that they feel. It's 3 years since Russia carried out its invasion into Ukraine, and the United States of America had been, to a very large extent, shouldering the defense of Ukraine by sending in arms, ammunition, and other military aid. And with that now no longer forthcoming, the Ukrainians feel that they are pretty much left on their own. How does Donald Trump make peace with the fact that the United States of America, the world superpower, is probably no longer present in this war, where Russia is the clear aggressor, and Trump wants to do a deal with Putin?
Well, Trump does want to do a deal with Putin, but that's his autobiography was entitled "The Art of the Deal." So he believes that he can achieve an optimal outcome if he just gets in the room with anybody. I'm not sure if that'll come to pass. I mean, it didn't work out well with Korea in his first term. I wouldn't be so quick to judge that this is the end of U.S. support for Ukraine. It is true we've kind of reached the limit of what we can do without additional production. But now that there is reports of this mineral deal, what that does is provide for Trump the ability to justify to his base continued support of Ukraine. He would say, well, we're going to get this all back down the road. So rather than viewing this as extortion, I see it as something that ties the U.S. into the continued defense of Ukraine. I mean, after all, if Ukraine is taken over by Putin, Putin's not going to pay the United States back. So I think that what we're seeing here is really a fig leaf that allows Trump to continue support on his term rather than on Joe Biden's terms.
It's interesting that you mentioned that the defense of Ukraine, for that weapons, ammunition, and other support can flow from the United States, contingent to the fact that the Americans have access to the Ukrainian rare earth minerals. Would that mean that Donald Trump would say that he wanted to end this war with Russia, may, for access to Ukrainian rare earth minerals, prolong this war?
Well, I think what's going to prolong the war is the fact that you have incompatible war aims of both Russia and Ukraine. So, I mean, look, Ukraine defeated the initial Russian invasion without substantial help from the United States or anybody else. They did it on their own. And if the United States were to withdraw, which I think is unlikely, they're not just going to say, oh, well, that's it, and capitulate. There's still substantial European support, and they have their own resources. So, you can always end a war by surrendering. The question is, can we end it on favorable terms for Ukraine and for the West? And I think that, Trump has some issues, but I think that this provides the cover for him to do that on terms where he can say this is not money coming away from the United States, will eventually be paid back.
Interesting. Thank you very much indeed, Colonel Desroches, for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you.